Welcome back, everybody. I've just wrapped up my test of this Nostalgia Bacon Press and Griddle. It supposedly allows you to make an entire breakfast in one device, but what you see here is not all done at one time, even though that's what they show in the packaging. That's not quite the full story. If you want to see what that's all about, stay tuned for today's video. Before we get too far, let's go back to the unboxing and see how that went. I paid $41.98 for this on Amazon. It's been around for a couple years, and this replaces an older model that doesn't have the grills, it just had the bacon press itself. They say it can make up to 6 strips of bacon at a time, although they only show 5 on the packaging. Got some instructions, which I will read over before I start using it. Just to take a quick peek inside here. Now, just my first impression is this is much smaller than I thought it was going to be. I mean, look at the size of my hand. But they do say it has dual-sided grilling, so you can have a variety of foods. Folds up compact for vertical storage. Drip tray is right here. And they say it has cool touch handles. Before I jump into this one, I did have a few observations after looking at the packaging, looking at the comments, reading the instructions. The first one is that the packaging, some people might think, is deceptive. When you look at the packaging, it implies that you're going to be able to make all of this at the same time, but you can't. You can't make bacon in the center and then put things on the griddle on the outsides, because to make bacon, you actually have to fold it all the way up to cook the bacon with the griddle plates. This is not heated. This is just a place to drape the bacon when it's cooking. You don't actually need to use the center plate while using the griddle. You can actually just take it out. When you're using the griddle, they suggest using cooking spray. They also suggest when you're making bacon in here is to let this sit out for about 15 minutes, which I've done. So I'm about ready to preheat it and load it up and see how the first round goes. So there's a bit of a learning curve when using this product, and it took me about 3 rounds before I actually got it right. So rather than stretch this video out longer than necessary, I'm gonna kind of show you a quick summary of the first 2 rounds and then the third round when everything seemed to go right. For round number 1, I preheated it for about 3 minutes, loaded it up with some smaller center cut bacon, closed it up and cooked it for about 4 minutes. And the bacon actually turned out pretty well. I then wiped the griddle off, sprayed it with cooking spray, and put 2 eggs on one side and warmed up some sausage links on the other. And here I forgot to put the kickstand down, and if you don't do that, the griddle's at a slight angle and everything flows to the edge. I also realized here that having 2 eggs in one of those small griddles is really cramped and not easy to work with. So I put the bacon back on the center rack to kind of try to emulate what the packaging shows. It was pretty cramped with the 2 eggs on one side, and the griddle was pretty hot, and there's no temperature control, so the eggs really didn't turn out very well for round number 1. I have so little room, I think I should do 1 egg on each side. I don't know. I had a bit of a difficulty judging the time on these. I think I need to go back to the drawing board on this one. For round number 2, I tried to make some changes. This time I loaded up with some larger Jimmy Dean bacon, and after about 4 minutes, it actually turned out pretty well once again. In fact, the bacon was never really an issue for any of the rounds I tried. So I wiped off the griddle, sprayed it with cooking spray, and put some pancake batter on one side and only a single egg on the other. And of course, I forgot to put the kickstand down once again. The cooking spray seemed to burn easily, and of course, there's no temperature control to avoid that. Although I will say the bacon stayed warm on the center plate. I wasn't sure if it was gonna stay warm there, and it did. All right, this has been preheated. Let's check out the temperature here. This side's showing up in the 430s. This side over here, 425. The plate is barely over 300. So the smoke point of the oil I had been using, which is 400, that's why it's burning. What I'll probably do next is try a higher smoke point avocado oil and see how that goes. You can actually see the shape of the heating element inside there, which is very interesting. You can see it's kind of an S shape, very interesting. This is also showing over 400 on each side as well. So now let's look at how my final round went when everything seemed to go right. First thing I did was switch from cooking spray to a very light layer of cooking oil. This time I also didn't forget the kickstands. And this time I used a cool wet sponge to wipe off the griddles after the bacon. And finally I had the results I liked. Check it out. First up, we're making bacon and we have to preheat it. When it's done preheating, the blue goes out. All right, the preheating took about 3 minutes. Now in round 1, I used a smaller center cut bacon. I'm using a much thicker bacon for round 2 and 3, which only allows me to fit 4 strips on there. All right, now we close it up. And if the first 2 rounds are in the indication, it should take about 4 to 5 minutes. We shall see. All right, it's been 3.5 minutes. Let's take a peek at this. Oh, I'd say it looks pretty good. It looks pretty good. It's funny, all these 3 rounds I've done, the bacon is the easiest part of it. Let's see what we got here on the other side. I think that's pretty good. I think it's pretty good. Now the issue I have is that you can either leave the bacon grease on there and just cook right in that, which is maybe okay for eggs, but what about pancakes? You want chocolate chip bacon pancakes? Maybe. But I'm going to wipe this down and then start cooking my other things in here. One problem I've had is I keep forgetting to put these kickstands down, which I'm not forgetting this time. All right, the kickstands are in place. I'm gonna wipe it down. Now in the first 2 rounds, I used this cooking spray, which seemed to kind of burn. So I've got a little bit of oil on this paper towel. I'm just gonna cut a light layer of oil, see if that works better. This is a light layer of avocado oil. It has a higher smoke point, and we'll see if that makes much of a difference. I'm really trying to make this work. I think I'll put the pancake on there first. Pancake's a little more forgiving. Pancake going on. Ooh, it's not too big. Egg looking good, looking good. All right, we're on a roll here. This looks much better. Look, from round 1 till now, this is like night and day. I'm very happy so far. I'll be making a fried egg sandwich. I'm gonna break the yolk here. Feeling good about round 3. 3rd time's a charm, I think. I think the other thing that might have helped is wiping it off with that cool sponge. Maybe prevented the grill from being so hot initially. I don't know. My first 2 rounds, the grill was so hot everything burned. But this round seems like I'm off to a better start. All right, this pancake has got to get flipped. Boom! Pancake is looking good. If the egg can flip, I'm set. I think my pancake might be done. Let me take a look here. Pancake looks done. Pancake done. I think the thin layer of oil worked much better than the thicker layer of cooking spray. That's the instructions say use cooking spray. It didn't seem to work out too well for me. Let's see how this egg is looking now. All right, I think the egg is done. I think we're done. We're done with everything. Unplug this, let this cool off and clean it up, but I think round 3, I actually got it right. Round 3 is looking good. I knew I could eventually get it. About 11 minutes total from the time I started preheating till being finished. Not terrible, really. What I learned from round 1 and 2 is that, number 1, you've got to make sure you put the kickstands on or the eggs are going to go all out the edges. That was my mistake. Number 2, they say to use cooking spray, which whenever I did that, it seemed like it burned. As far as cleaning it goes, I never got to figure out how to get the plates off, but I cleaned it with a sponge. This does come off easily and it's pretty easy to clean. All right, so in the end, I can definitely see why there's mixed reviews for this product. My first couple rounds, I was considering just giving up and throwing in the towel, but I really wanted to make it work, and I did for round 3. The adjustments I made were switching from cooking spray to a light layer of cooking oil put on with a paper towel. I also gave up putting 2 eggs on one side. There's not enough room to really get in there and flip them. When people see this packaging, they're gonna think you can make all that at once. You don't. You make the bacon and then you make everything else. A lot of people don't like that because they think that it's deceptive, but I will say that the bacon stayed warm in that center plate when I was using the griddle, so I don't think that's really much of an issue. From beginning to end being 11 minutes long doesn't seem that unreasonable. The bacon doesn't splatter. In fact, the bacon was probably the best part about it. Most of the comments on Amazon that were positive were focused on the bacon aspect. A lot of the negative comments were focused on the griddle. So it's definitely not perfect, but it was some work and a learning curve. I think you can actually make this work. It's probably not something I'm going to really stick with, but I'm glad I got to make it work because I was really starting to wonder for a minute there. But if you've used this, tell me what you think in the comments below. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time.